Hello everyone, good morning. It's about 11:30 right now on Thursday, March 19th, and if you're tuning in, that is because you are doing the SAT prep that I assigned. So what we're going to be doing today is we're going to go through the answers overall, each one all together, and then we're going to break it down one by one and go through each one specifically and find where the evidence in the passage is. So this first passage that we're assigned on Tuesday is about J. Robert Oppenheimer and the atomic bomb. If you have not read this passage yet, please pause the video right now and read the passage so that way you know what's going on. All right. Okay. So at this point, everyone's read the passage. I hope. Okay. Let's go through all the answers together, all at once. So this way you can check and see how you did. Number one is B. Oh, oh, oh. Nope, that didn't work. Number one is B. Number two is A. That's not going to let me do that. Number three is B. Number four is C. Number five is C. Number six is C. Number seven is A. And number eight is A. All right, check your work, see how you did, and then let's get into it. I'm going to switch over to the non-answer key version. Get out of here. All right, so let's start with question one. As it is used in line 25, harnessed most nearly means attached, utilized, tamed, coupled. Now, all of these are very interesting choices because if you harness something to something else, you attach it or you couple it. Okay? But when we're talking about energy or like nuclear energy or harnessing the power of something, right? What we're talking about is using um, that power, using that energy. And so we're going to have to go with B, utilized, because when you harness the power of the atom, you are using the power to do some sort of work. So that is why number one has to be B, even though the word harness seems like attaching or coupling, because we're using the power, going with utilized. All right, number two, according to the passage, the Manhattan Project was started in response to the escalation of war in the 1930s, publication of Einstein's third scientific paper, development of the implosion method in theoretical physics, discovery of the mass of an atomic nucleus. Okay, so if we go up to where they first start talking about the Manhattan Project, which is in line 23 right here, okay, all they've talked about so far in this paragraph is conflict and war. They haven't talked about anything with Einstein, E equals mc squared. They haven't talked about what were the other options for that one. Haven't talked about implosion or mass of a nucleus. All they're talking about so far is just war. So even though the other topics are mentioned at some point, we really have to use context. Like they haven't been brought up yet, so they can't be choices yet for our answer. Um, the Manhattan Project was started in response to the escalation of war in the 1930s. It's the only choice, okay? Because even though Einstein wrote his papers, they have implosion methods or massive atomic nucleus, all that stuff, it's not the reason why the Manhattan Project was created. It was just because of the war that is breaking out. So that's why number two is A. All right, which of the following best reflects how Oppenheimer ultimately felt about his involvement in the Manhattan Project? Pride, regret, shock, embarrassment. Okay, this is another tricky one because we really got to understand what kind of response each one of these emotions would elicit. If you were embarrassed about something, what would you do? Like if I was embarrassed about something, I'd probably try to hide. I'd probably try to run away from this problem and not address the fact that I was involved at all, right? Try to distance yourself. Shock, this one's kind of tough because people react to shock in different ways. Probably just like dumbstruck, not know what to think, maybe, if you were shocked. Regret, feel bad about it and want to make it right. So if you're feeling regret, you want to make it right. You want to fix the problem that you created. And then pride, you're happy with it. It's all good. Let's keep this party rolling. Okay. So if we take a look up here, just right above where these questions are, lines 103 onward. Okay. Oppenheimer realized the moral implications of what he had developed. Moral implications. What does this mean for your goodness versus evilness? Right? Light versus dark. And then it also says in here, spoke out publicly about the consequences of nuclear arms development, opposed further government construction of nuclear weapons. He worked until the end of his life to advocate peaceful energy producing applications and restriction and control of nuclear weapons. So if we take a look back at our options, we were saying embarrassed, trying to distance ourselves. It doesn't seem like Oppenheimer was trying to get away from the problem that he created. It doesn't seem like he's shocked. It seemed like he fully understood and knew as soon as he saw it happen what it meant. And it doesn't seem like he was very happy about it. He doesn't seem prideful about it. So regret is one of the biggest ones because he spends his whole life trying to fix the problems that he created in the first place. So we're going to go with number 3. We're going to go with regret as our answer. All right, which choice provides the best evidence for the answer to that previous question? So which of these lines best supports the claim that Oppenheimer felt regret? All right, and so real quick, because this is our first one going through these, there'll be other ones like this. Keep in mind when it says lines 11 through 17, the first word of the passage is Oppenheimer and the last word is formula. So that's how we're going to read that. So if we go up here, line 11 through 17. All right, here's Oppenheimer. That's the first word in line 17 that we care about. And then, or excuse me, in line 11 that we care about. And then if we go all the way down here to formula, this is the passage. Oppenheimer, who was widely recognized as one of the generation's most brilliant theoretical physicists, led the Manhattan Project's efforts to create a fearsome new weapon by applying principles of Einstein's mass energy formula, E equals mc squared. Now, this doesn't really lead us to support that he regretted making the bomb or helping to make the bomb. So maybe that's not the right choice. We'll keep it highlighted just in case. 91 to 95, eventually detonated. 91, eventually, and then detonated right there. Boom. Eventually, Oppenheimer's team developed an implosion method in which a shell of explosives surrounding a core of fissionable material, uranium or plutonium, was detonated. Now, this is definitely not the right answer because this in no way explains how Oppenheimer felt. This is just describing the process that they used to create the bomb, or one of the components of the bomb. So this is definitely not the right choice. C, lines 106 to 113. Come up here, 106. Oh, I forgot to look at what the words were. After to weapons. After the end of the war, in which the U.S. demonstrated the devastating effects of his weapon on Japan, Oppenheimer spoke out publicly about the consequences of nuclear arms development and opposed further government construction of nuclear weapons. Boom. All right. So, interesting. We stop at weapons, and I almost stopped right here. Okay. I was reading through, I was okay, reading through. Oh, weapon, I'm done. That's the last word. Now, what you have to be careful of is the fact that they want you to stop at weapons on line 113. And this weapon here is on line 108. So that's definitely, I can't stop there. That almost got me. But we're keeping going through to weapons right here. And now this passage is about all of the things he was doing after the end of the war to help make his contribution to this bomb process more justifiable, trying to make sure that countries know how dangerous the bomb is and that they really need to be careful with what they're doing because it is very, very, very lethal and very dangerous. So this is kind of speaking to the fact that Oppenheimer would regret his part in making the bomb because now he's trying to make it right. If you regret something, you're trying to make it right. You're trying to make it better. So this is one of the things that he's doing to try to make it better. All right, and then finally 118 to 125, while energy. While the use of his discoveries may be controversial, Oppenheimer's development of innovative detonation mechanisms marks a huge advance in theoretical physics and improved human understanding of the relationship between mass and energy. Okay, this is more just uh, objective third party uh, contribution and not, again, not really speaking to the way Oppenheimer felt. So I think definitely option C that we had previously, talking about how he treated his stance after the war, that's the one we're going to want to go with. So option C here best supports his regret from this problem. All right. Okay. Based on the passage, which of the following events, we're on question 5 now, first led Oppenheimer to question his involvement in the creation of the atomic bomb? 1905 publication of Einstein's paper. That happened before the bomb was even made, before they even knew what was going to happen. The initiation of the Manhattan Project. Again, if he already regretted his involvement, he wouldn't have jumped into the project. Testing of this team's weapon prototype, and the end of the Second World War. So these are both possibilities, C and D. But if we look based on the passage, which of the following events first led Oppenheimer to question? So which of these happened first? Well, you had to test the prototype before you could use it in the war. So I'm leaning towards this one, but let's go and let's check. Let me get rid of this. When the first nuclear mushroom cloud faded from the New Mexico sky, Oppenheimer realized the moral implications of what he had developed. Now, New Mexican sky. That is where they tested the first atomic bomb, was in New Mexico. And that is when he realized the moral implications. So that is definitely what we're going to want to go with, because already, even after the prototype was tested, he already started to question and figure out, is this right? Are we the good guys in bringing this bomb into the world? Okay. So that's why we're going to go with C for 5. Which choice provides the best answer to the previous question? Again, going back to that same passage we just looked at, 102, right here, when the first nuclear mushroom cloud faded from the New Mexican sky, Oppenheimer realized the moral implications of what he had helped develop. That's the only one that, again, supports what we were just talking about. So we're going to go with C. Again, these ones were before anything was tested. And then this one is after the war. It's down here, when he had already started to understand. Okay. So we got to go with C for this one. All right, 2 more questions and we are done. According to the passage, the splitting of an atomic nucleus is called fission, implosion, equivalence, detonation. Find these words in the passage and see which one matches. Now, right away, I know it's fission. That's just because that's like my job. So if we look up here real quick to where they're talking about fission. Therefore, if the nucleus is split or fissioned, all the energy holding the nucleus together is released. The splitting of an atomic nucleus is called fission. It's just right there. That one. That's a layup. We can get that one. According to the passage, Oppenheimer became involved with the Manhattan Project due to his A. experience in physics, B. experience in the U.S. military, C. reputation as an orator, and D. connections to facilities in New Mexico. Now, a lot of these seem like good options, so let's use some process of elimination to eliminate some, and then we'll check the passage. So in the passage, it definitely says Oppenheimer is one of the greatest theoretical physicists of all time, of his generation, I should say. says that right here in this highlighted passage on line 11. Oppenheimer, who is widely recognized as one of his generation's most brilliant theoretical physicists. Okay, so we know that's true. Experience in the U.S. military. The passage says nothing about him being in the U.S. military. Reputation as an orator. Again, doesn't say anything about these three things in the passage. Now, it could be wrong. It might have mentioned those, but really, these are not going to impact whether or not he gets on one of the most secretive projects of all time, which was the Manhattan Project, experience in physics. Now, fun fact about the Manhattan Project, they got as many of the leading scientists and physicists in the world that they could in on this project. They took people from Germany, they took people from Russia, they took people from all over the place, Austria, Hungary, countries that were against the US in World War II. They tried to still get their scientists to come and work on the Manhattan Project because they knew the importance of the work that they were doing, and they wanted to make sure they had the best minds on it. And one of the um, drawbacks of that was there was a lot of untrustworthiness from the U.S. government about the scientists in the Manhattan Project. Many thought that some of the scientists, including Oppenheimer themselves, were spies that were going to develop this bomb and then immediately take the plans overseas to countries fighting against the U.S. in the war. Um, Luckily, that did not happen. That was not the case. Oppenheimer was not a secret spy. He was just here to do what he had to do uh, and to do it well. So, answer for question 8 is A. A. Experience in physics. Now, that brings us to the end of passage 1. If you stuck with us through this whole thing, I appreciate it. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to be uploading this video to Google Classroom along with the next assignment, which is going to be over graphs. That is going to be due on Monday at noon. Uh, Again, take a picture of your work, upload it. I will give you extra credit if you choose not to do these activities, this SAT prep. That is totally fine too. I understand. I hope you are all staying healthy and staying safe and enjoying this time off that you guys have. Without further ado, I'm going to wrap this up and I will see you all on Monday. Don't forget to like and subscribe.